Don't miss the awesome Naruto stories my sister creates. Her last channel was hacked, so to stay in the loop, please subscribe to her new channel. It would mean a lot to her, and you won't regret it. Hello to all lovers of lemon scenes. I invite you all to my boosty so you can watch your favorite Naruto What If stories in complete comfort. A subscription to Naruto Lemon, the first video with a full lemon, is already on my boosty channel. Dare! Okay, then listen to me very carefully. She looked decisively at Naruto. After the destruction of Uzushio, I was brought to Konoha. The first years I lived a quiet life in Mito-sama's house. After her death, the attitude towards me changed, but before her death, Mito Uzumaki sealed the Kyuubi into me. When I entered the academy, they started teasing me because of my red hair. There I communicated with Mikoto Uchiha, and in subsequent years we became best friends. When I became a genin, I was kidnapped by the Kyuumo shinobi, then Minato saved me. I immediately realized that this was a production. It was too easy for a genin who had just graduated from the academy to defeat 6 big guys. But I didn't show that I suspected anything. After returning, they wanted to bookmark me, but because of the block they were asleep. I decided to play along with them and see what happens. After my 16th birthday, I started living with Minato. Living with him, I did not let him near me. You know the rest, she finished and firmly took her lover's hands. She felt a murderous aura emanating from Naruto. Naruto was very angry at the top of Konoha. How dare they even do such things to Kushina? Sometimes he thought that if they wanted to bookmark it, they probably still had plans for Kushina. These thoughts made him angrier. How did they come up with this? Hit the wall. Naru, please calm down, the girl tried to calm Naruto's anger. After all, you yourself said that you shouldn't dwell on the past. Sighing, Naruto fell onto the bed, dragging the girl with him. Uzumaki hugged Kushina tightly and covered her with a blanket. Kushina fell asleep in the arms of the man she loved. Naruto looked at the white ceiling, and Kushina's story couldn't get out of his head. Emerging from Kushina's tight grip, Naruto walked down to the kitchen. He poured cold water into a glass and drank it in one gulp. After looking at the moon, he was about to go to the bedroom, but he heard screams coming from the street. Naruto became interested in what was there and went out onto the porch. Standing on the porch of the house, he looked at the Hokage and the head of the Uchiha clan. What's wrong with them? Naruto asked himself. The Uzumaki was lost in thought. He didn't notice Minato and Fugaku leaving. He stood there until an idea came into his head. Quickly running into the house, he threw on his clothes, which consisted of black. And he put a black mask on his head, with 2 cutouts for the eyes. Naruto was going to the Konoha archives, he needed Kushina's file. It was deep night outside, the Hokage was at home, the ANBU were not visible on the horizon. This was the perfect opportunity for Naruto. Naruto wasn't going to jump on the roof so as not to attract attention to himself. Using his technology, he appeared in front of the residence. Turning on his sensors, he found 6 ANBU on the roof, and 2 inside the residence. The Uzumaki completely hid his chakra, you never know. Climbing the wall, Uzumaki ran to the 2nd floor. After looking around and making sure that he was not being followed, he very quietly opened the window and entered the building. Naruto moved silently through the corridors. He clearly felt 2 sources of chakra, they were not far from him. So he walked until he found a map of the residence. With the help of it, he found out where the archive was located. Naruto activated his Uzugen before turning the corner. He confidently walked towards the 2 standing ANBU. Seeing the unknown Umbu, they asked, "Who are you?" but not receiving an answer to the question, they wanted to eliminate the threat, but Uzumaki caught them in his genjutsu. Tying them with rope, Naruto attached several seals to their heads and sent them to the kingdom of Morpheus with a blow to the neck. Opening the door to the archive, Uzumaki created several clones in order to find a folder about Uzumaki Kushina. The clones ran around and wandered around the shelves. The original did not stand still and helped its copies. One of the clones found a yellow folder in the closet, and on it was written Uzumaki Kushina. Giving it to the original, he disappeared, and then the rest disappeared. Opening the folder, Naruto began to read. After reading what he read, a storm of emotions was seething inside Uzumaki. They wanted to do a bunch of disgusting things to his mother. He now wanted to personally destroy this rotten village along with its inhabitants. And with his own hands he wanted to hit the Hokage and his companions. And yes, he found out that they want to make an incubator out of Kushina. A huge and terrifying chakra burst out from his body. "I'll kill you!" And hit the wall with all his might, thereby destroying it completely. "I won't forgive anyone." Scarlet chains appeared behind him and began to cause chaos. The hair split into 9 parts and began to levitate. The look was angry. Naruto began to destroy everything that came under his feet. A few minutes later, the realization came to him, looking at all the destruction, Naruto did not regret it one bit. He needed to make his feet now. He sensed several squads of ninjas. But before leaving, he wanted to leave a small gift. With the help of Kato, he burned down the residence from the inside. "This is just the beginning," he said, and went to the world of summoning. Naruto spent the whole night in the summoning world venting his anger. The foxes were surprised to see Naruto in such a state. Hizo gave the order not to touch Naruto, because he himself understood all of Naruto's feelings. The red-haired man lay on the sofa and looked at the stairs with a tired look, as if he was waiting for someone. He was in a deplorable state, there were black bags under his eyes, his hair was disheveled. A yellow folder lay next to him. Before leaving, Naruto took it with him. Kushina began to descend from the 2nd floor. She was wearing a red robe and red slippers. "Good morning, dear." And reached up. She didn't even look at Naruto. Uzumaki turned her head with a smile, seeing her beloved in a terrible form, the smile immediately disappeared. "Naru, what happened to you?" And ran to the guy. Naruto silently handed her the folder. Kushina ignored it. She was worried about Naruto's condition. Her palms lit up with a light green color, and began to treat the bruises on her body. Naruto grabbed her hands, stopping the treatment. "Take it and read it," the red-haired man asked in a hoarse voice. "But first, I'll get you in order," she continued her treatment. After patching up Naruto, she took the folder from his hands and began to read. With every sentence she read, she was horrified by what was written. "Is this our true? Did they really want to do such things to me?" she remarked, and her body trembled with fear. Naruto pulled the standing girl towards him and spoke soothing words. "Kushi, after the exam you are leaving with me, understand?" "Yeah," she answered the guy's question briefly. She wet Naruto's clothes with her tears. "Forgive me, Mito-sama, but I will no longer protect this village," Kushina mentally apologized to Mito. Naruto promised himself that he would punish all the scum. Everything has its time. A week has passed since that day. Naruto decided to eliminate these old right now. He didn't care that the Chunin exam was going on. The main thing is to eliminate the threat. For Naruto they were not worthy to live on this earth. He could not understand how the earth still carried such people. The Uzumaki was filled with rage. From that very day until he killed them, he would not rest. For Kushina's sake, he would kill anyone who even tried to touch her. Remembering all the plans of the top of Konoha, Naruto became angry. At such moments, Kushina calmed Naruto down. Even if he is caught, he will not give up his goal. When Kushina found out what Naruto wanted to do, she tried to talk Naruto out of his plan. The girl was very worried. She was not going to lose the only person dear to her again. No matter how hard she tried, she couldn't convince Naruto. ANBU and Konoha police were heavily patrolling the entire village. After setting the residence on fire, Minato ordered to find the scumbag who arranged it all. The Hokage was very angry, the entire archive was destroyed, and the amount of work doubled. He even made an announcement that if someone finds the culprit, he will pay 100,000 ryo. Even the Yamanaka members did not detect the unknown's chakra. They haven't found anything to grab onto yet. The Hokage and his subordinates were at a dead end. The investigation was in full swing. After waking up, Kuratsuchi chased her brother throughout the hospital. She was offended by him because Naruto did not come to watch the fight. Kushina and Kuratsuchi became very good friends. After Deidara is discharged, Naruto will take him on as a student to train him until the third stage. There was complete silence in the Uzumaki house. Naruto was going to carry out his plan. Having put on all the shinobi uniforms, he began to say goodbye to Kushina. "Naru, maybe you'll change your mind," the girl begged to stop. "Darling, please come to your senses, don't hold a grudge against them, because I'm fine." "Kushi," he covered his cheek with his palm. "I can't, I have to destroy them." He hugged the crying girl to himself. "Now think about it, if we hadn't found out about their plans, I wouldn't have forgiven myself if they hurt you," Naruto said and carefully wiped the tears from his face. Promise to come back alive," the girl asked, sobbing with tears. "I promise," Uzumaki said quietly and turned his back to her. "Just wait for me, I'll definitely come back." And disappeared into the whirlpool. Uzumaki appeared on Mount Hokage. He looked around the night Konoha with a cold gaze. "It begins," he said and put his hand on the hilt of his katana. Jumping off the cliff, Naruto disappeared into a swirl of leaves. The first to become his victims were Mitokata Hamura and Utatane Koharu. Naruto decided to take out the weakest ones first. His next victims will be the heads of the Inuzuka, Hyuga, Akimichi clans, and all the rest. The Uzumaki took pity on Uchiha Fugaku and Nara Shikaku. The document stated that they were against Minato's plan. And the last one will be the head of the ANBU route, Danzo Shimura, so he will kill him painfully in order to enjoy his suffering. On the Hokage, he was not going to attack yet. Naruto doubted his victory. And an attack on the Hokage could lead to bad consequences, and a war could start. Naruto wanted to do everything quietly and so that no one would bother him. The elders sat at home and counted the stolen money from the Konoha treasury. Hamura and Koharu were married and lived together. In their youth, they were students of the second Hokage himself, Tobirama Senju. They were true patriots of their homeland, wishing happiness to the village and all its inhabitants. Hamura and Koharu were hypocritical people. They judged a person by his status. If a person was nothing, then to them he was trash. "Well, how many are there?" asked the elderly woman, and in her hand she was holding a smoking pipe from which smoke was coming out. "Exactly 2 million ryo," answered the old man. "What are we going to do with this money?" "I'm thinking of building a few houses in other villages," and Koharu exhaled a small puff of smoke. "We will rent it out and receive passive income." That's an idea," and Mitokata smiled disgustingly. "Don't you think that the Hokage might find out that money is being sold from the treasury? And if people find out, they will start a riot. He won't know. We've been stealing for so long, but Minato doesn't notice. If he finds out, he will do nothing to us." The old woman said all this with an indifferent face. "People, these are stupid people who don't have their own opinions. Let's just say that this money was used to build houses, they'll believe it like sheep." "I see," Hamura drawled and closed the case with the money. "I will now give the order to my ANBU so that they begin to look for earthen plots outside the village." The old woman sitting at the opposite table nodded silently and continued smoking. After giving the order to their ANBU, the two elders sat and sipped their sake. They sat like that until they heard quiet footsteps coming from the darkness. The man and woman looked at each other. They didn't invite anyone to visit today. Who's come? Is it really Danzo? The old woman asked, but seeing the serious face of her husband holding a kunai in his hands, Koharu repeated after him. Who are you? The old man shouted into the darkness. He had long ago realized that this was a stranger, and not someone he knew. The stranger began and walked out of the darkness. Your death. Today I will personally punish you for all your sins. What will you do to us, boy? The elder said jokingly. The milk hasn't dried on your lips yet. Are you still asking what I will do? The stranger grinned, like a representative of the Uchiha clan. I will kill you and burn your bodies to ashes. The elders tensed a little at Naruto's tone. Umbu. The old man shouted, and within a second Naruto was surrounded by 8 ANBU. Don't kill him, just neutralize him. I want to look at the face of my punisher. Zanko Uzumaki, with one quick movement of his katana, blew off the heads of all the Umbu, after which he appeared in front of his target. Koharu and Hamura didn't even have time to blink before all the ANBU were killed. They looked at Naruto in shock. They didn't know how he appeared in front of them so quickly. And why don't ANBU attack? Hearing something heavy fall to the floor, they lowered their gaze. Near their feet were the bloody heads of ANBU. The elders were horrified and screamed in horror. They backed away and asked not to kill them. Don't kill, you say? He said and made a thoughtful face. The old people already believed in a miracle that they would not be killed. Yes, never. I came only to destroy you. The teenager shouted and took out 2 kunai. They differed from normal kunai only in size. Now let's play darts. He nailed the elders to the wall, using those same kunai. Please don't kill us. The man said in a trembling voice. The thought that he was about to die made him even more frightened. Let us give you the money, and you won't touch us. The old woman was also horrified, like her husband. I want your money, here. We didn't give up, Naruto said and began throwing kunai at the Konoha elders. Uzumaki spent all these half an hour playing with Hamura and Koharu. He threw kunai at them like they were targets. Naruto, like a crazy person, tormented the old people. He pulled out their nails, broke their fingers and toes. He beat them like punching bags. The old people only had to scream in pain. They begged Naruto to stop and asked him to kill him immediately, without torture. It's good that there was a barrier near the house, otherwise the whole of Konoha would have woken up from the screams. After playing around, Naruto sealed all his tools and began to leave. The elders looked at the departing silhouette with bleary eyes. And they thought the nightmare was over. Will you leave us alive? The old man wheezed. Yes, answered Uzumaki. But before I leave, I want to show you my face. He tore the mask off his face. Seeing the face of their executioner, the elders were horrified. Naruto looked with a cold gaze at the surprised faces of the 2 senile people. Are you the Tsuchikige's grandson? Why did you attack us? I know all the plans that you are making for Uzumaki Kushina. I think you understand what I'm hinting at. Uzumaki never leave their own in trouble. When he finished, he winked at them. So revenge, you scoundrel. Trying to scream, he made it even worse. Blood was coming from his mouth, not ceasing to stop. He already realized that Naruto would not leave them alive. What kind of idiot would let his victims live? Tell me thank you for leaving you alive, he said finally and began to leave. May you die, creature. The old woman shouted at Naruto's back. Our hero appeared on Hokage Mountain and snapped his finger. The building in which his victims were located was blown into the air. The first target has been destroyed, Naruto said to himself. Because of the explosion, Naruto caused an unnecessary fuss and had to sit out for a few days at Kushina's house. It would be stupid to attack the clan heads now. Uzumaki appeared in the center of the living room. Kushina, who was sitting on the sofa, screamed in fear. "Naru," the woman whispered and rushed at the guy with a hug. "Are you all right? Are you injured?" The girl bombarded her boyfriend with questions. "Kushi, I'm fine, don't worry," he answered and took the girl in his arms. The Uzumaki looked lovingly at Kushina's sweet face. At his gaze, the girl became embarrassed and lowered her head. Kushina noticed traces of blood on her clothes out of the corner of her eyes. "Naru, your clothes," Naruto didn't let her finish, kissing her. Pulling away from the guy's lips, the girl got off him and began to take off his outerwear, under the pretext of needing to wash. "Are you finished?" The red-haired girl asked quietly, taking off the last piece of clothing. "No, there are still a few smart guys left," Uzumaki answered. "So you can't continue because of the explosion?" Naruto nodded silently to the girl's question. "Then let's go take a bath together." A sly smile appeared on his face. Naruto immediately perked up and, picking up Kushina in his arms, ran to the bathroom. Minato and his associates were on edge. Because of yesterday's troubles, tourists and residents began to worry for their lives. When the residence burned down, they dismissed it as an accident, and now the house of the elders of Konoha exploded. They began to have doubts about whether it was safe to be in Konoha, and some began to get out of harm's way. You never know that Konoha had an enemy. Minato did not announce the death of Hamura and Koharu because the news would have a very bad effect on the village itself and people would say that it was an unsafe place to live. The Hokage said that everything is fine with the elders and they are now on vacation. The people, as always, believed Minato's words. "Patrol day and night, monitor the movements of every resident and visitor," shouted the Hokage, who was furious. "My guys will help you. With the help of our Ninken, we will find this faster," said the head of the Inuzuka clan, and Minato nodded in gratitude. "My guys will help too," the head of the Aburame clan said, as always, in a strange manner. "Thank you." "Thank them, Hokage." "That's it, the meeting is over." And gave the go-ahead. Everyone began to get up from their seats and leave the office. Fugaku sat in his place and looked thoughtfully at his friend. "Minato, it seems your plan will fail," the Uchiha said with a grin and stood up from his seat. "Where are such conclusions from?" "You know that I always achieve my goals, no matter what," Namikaze asked, raising an eyebrow. "It seems to me that he will disturb you," they answered him and began to wait for the Hokage's reaction. The wait did not last long. Minato broke the pencil in half and looked menacingly at the Uchiha. Who will interfere with my plans?" growled the fourth. "How do I know?" "I just assumed," he answered his former friend and, turning around, began to leave. The Uchiha stopped near the door, looking over his shoulder at the nervous Hokage. "You don't have to worry, I won't tell Kushina anything," Fugaku said before leaving the office. "Is it really you, Naruto?" "If it's really you, then I'm grateful to you, but still, I hate you," thought the Uchiha. Fugaku was ready to fight Naruto. If he attacks, he will give a great fight. Naruto stood near the entrance to the Inuzuka clan's estate. He was also wearing a shinobi uniform and a black mask. For him, all these 5 days were painful, and if not for Kushina, he would have destroyed everyone in broad daylight. "Finally, today I will destroy all these scum," Uzumaki hissed, anticipating reprisals, and, taking a katana, disappeared. A strange piece of paper with a seal was left on the ground. Standing on the roof of one of the houses, he very quickly looked for the head of the clan. The main problem was that the red-haired one could be smelled by the Inuzuka dogs. Uzumaki came up with a backup plan just in case if he was caught. Naruto would have continued to stand if he had not sensed danger behind him. He jumped back and looked in that direction, and there were members of the Inuzuka clan. They instantly surrounded our hero. There were more than 20 of them. Some emerged from the crowd. Did you seriously think that they wouldn't smell you on our territory? The woman asked with a grin. Kill him. They immediately attacked Naruto, and Uzumaki easily fought back and dodged. Several dogs appeared on the sides, but for him they were not a problem. Summoning the chains, he began to kill everyone, punching the Ninken and shinobi in the head. Only a few managed to dodge the scarlet chains. The first thing that came to Tsum's mind was, is he from the Uzumaki clan? The red-haired man began to notice that there were more and more opponents. Jumping up, he quickly made several seals and blew the wall out of fire. Some that did not have time to dodge the fire burned to the ground. Slowly, houses built on the territory of the Inuzuka clan began to burn. The campaign needs to use Plan B. Uzumaki thought. Jumping from the roof, Naruto landed very beautifully and threw a piece of paper with hieroglyphs. These symbols began to cover the entire Inuzuka clan area. The entire neighborhood of dog walkers, as Naruto himself called them, disappeared so quickly that no one had time to do anything. They appeared in the world of conscription. The Inuzukas didn't understand at all how they ended up here. Seconds ago they were in Konoha. They began to look around. When they saw their houses they were shocked by what they saw. Tsum cursed nervously. She was very worried about her clanmates. Members of the Inuzuka clan had a heightened sense of smell, so they quickly smelled our hero and ran towards him. They went out into a spacious forest and were already surrounded by huge foxes. And on the head of one of the foxes stood Naruto and was without his mask. Everyone immediately recognized him as the grandson of the Tsuchikage. The Inuzukas began to tremble with fear. The dogs hid behind their owners. What? Tsuchikage's grandson? The woman asked, in a state of shock. Tsum was already starting to guess everything. Well, as you can see, the young man answered. He was amused by their reaction. So you were involved in the destruction of the archive and the death of the elders. The head of the Inuzuka clan summed up her reasoning and she was instantly overcome with rage. Do you understand that if someone finds out, a new war will begin? Darling, no one will know about this. It's your own fault. You should have sat quietly and not done stupid things, Uzumaki mocked her. What are you talking about? Shouted the angry woman. I think there is no point in continuing a dialogue with someone who will die in a couple of minutes, he finished and looked at Keizo. You can start, they are yours. The foxes began to cut up their victims. They killed people with all cruelty. Some played with them, pulled out their legs and arms, even fingers. Uzumaki looked at everything that was happening with a smile. There are a few more left and my revenge will be carried out, Naruto thought and used a reverse call. Uzumaki appeared not far from the place where the Inuzuka clan's estate once was. There are many ANBU and clan heads gathered here now. The disappearance of the clan was noticed immediately when the illusory barrier fell. Now an investigation was underway. Minato was on his last nerve. He didn't understand how an entire clan could disappear. Illusory barriers were placed around so that no one would notice the loss, and the Hokage ordered some of his ANBU to go in the guise of a representative of the Inuzuka clan. Naruto stared at Hayashi Hyuga and Aburame Shibi without looking away. You're next, his whisper was drowned in the rustle of the trees. The heads of the Aburame and Hyuga clans walked along the forest path. They walked in silence, each in their own thoughts. Today's news shocked them. They did not understand how such a strong clan had gone missing. Even experienced shinobi could not detect the chakra of the unknown. By order of the Hokage, they were to mobilize their shinobi. Who do you think could destroy an entire clan? Shibi asked, thereby breaking the silence. I don't know. But I think that this man is very strong, and I assume that he was involved in the arson of the residents, and in the death of the elders, the man answered. But his motives are not clear to me. My friend, just think about it, it's all logical, Aburame said in his own manner. First he set the residents on fire, then he killed the elders, and now the whole clan has disappeared. Hayashi stopped and thought. There was a logical chain in his friend's words and he began to guess about everything. Is his target really the top of Konoha? Yes, I'm definitely sure of that. That night he clearly learned something. He couldn't just set fire to the Hokage's residence. So he was in the archive and found something there, but what is he taking revenge for? This is what I don't understand, Hayashi said and looked thoughtfully at the gray moon. My friend, don't bother yourself, Shibi said and patted his comrade on the shoulder. You don't have to worry, if he attacks, we'll catch him and he'll be punished for his actions. Okay, the Byakugan bearer agreed with him and they continued walking. All this time, two red eyes were watching them. Naruto disappeared from his place. Hayashi and Shibi stopped near the exit of the forest and began to say goodbye. The aburame bugs began to buzz, they felt that something was about to happen. But Shibi ignored it. Flash of Parnews, two men turned their heads to someone's cry. A huge spherical sphere of fire, filled with a large amount of chakra, flew towards the men at rapid speed. Hyuga immediately jumped back, but his friend came under attack and was completely burned. There were no cries for help, Shibi instantly turned to dust. There weren't even any bones left of him. Our hero appeared near where Shibi once was. Hayashi couldn't even utter a word out of horror. His friend had been alive a few seconds ago, but had disappeared as if he had never even existed. He quickly pulled himself together, his friend's killer stood in front of him. With the help of the Byakugan, he was able to see the face of the unknown person who was hiding behind the mask. You! Hyuga hissed. Hayashi already realized that the one who was responsible for the death of the elders was standing in front of him. Grandson Tsuchikage, why are you doing this? Do you want war? So I found out, Uzumaki said calmly and took off his mask. People don't lie, you really have very good eyes. What are you talking about, you sick? Hayashi growled. Tell me, what did we do to you? Do you want war? We'll turn you into powder. You made the biggest mistake in your life. Uzumaki still spoke calmly and began to slowly take out his katana. And I'm doing this because of Kushina. I know everything that you were going to do to her. I see, was all Hyuga could say. Now he understood everything. But you could have talked to the Hokage so that we wouldn't touch Kushina. What? Did you realize that you took a? The red-haired man growled, and his eyes took on the pattern of a whirlpool. Such creatures must be destroyed. He shouted and quickly attacked the head of the Hyuga clan. Hayashi took out a kunai and repelled the enemy's attack. Naruto began to attack Hyuga with particular brutality. The man barely had time to defend himself. Naruto was too fast for him. With one swing of his katana, he knocked the kunai out of his opponent's hands. Hayashi said to himself and tried to hit Tenketsu, but received a strong blow to his leg, and the crunching of bones was heard. Hyuga's face contorted in pain. The man fell to one knee and began screaming so that they would hear him and come to his aid. You don't have to shout, no one will hear you, I've put up barriers, Uzumaki said in a calm tone. Hayashi wanted to hit Naruto's leg, but his hand was intercepted. He looked at the guy with a frightened look. That's it, old man, your death has come, Uzumaki grinned and broke his arm. Hayashi hissed in pain and grabbed his sore arm. Please don't kill me, I'll do anything, just don't kill me, Hyuga said, already crying. Please have pity on me, my children and wife are waiting for me at home, they will feel bad without me. To be honest, I don't care at all, Naruto said indifferently. Please. I recently had a daughter, I don't want her to grow up without a father. He was already on his knees and begging Naruto, while ignoring all the pain. You know, it looks so funny, a guy says with a grin, when you discussed Kushina, did you think about her? Maybe she also had a person dear to her. Did you think about that? He shouted the last phrase. Sorry, the man said quietly and was hit in the face with a knee. As soon as he stood up, he looked at his guest with pleading eyes. Please give me a chance to improve, I will do whatever you want. I have one request, Uzumaki smiled slyly. And which one? The man asked hopefully. Die. With a sharp movement of his katana he blew off the man's head. The next thing Naruto did was burn the corpse and remove the barrier. He was about to leave, but he felt someone's gaze on him. Come out. The head of the Akimichi clan came out of the bushes. In his hands he held a huge staff. Who are you? And what were you doing here? The fat man asked in disbelief. You shouldn't worry about this, my friend, Chuza heard an icy voice behind him. Akimichi could not say anything, he was already lying on the ground without his head. After removing the corpse, Naruto disappeared from the clearing. Inoichi and his family were currently having dinner. During dinner, they happily talked. Inoichi had a daughter, her name was Ino Yamanaka. In a word, a wonderful girl. All his senses spoke of danger, he immediately jumped to the side. The wife and daughter did not understand what had happened. It was not in vain that Inoichi left and an unknown person appeared near the chair. The female representatives jumped up from their seats and stood next to Inoichi. Yamanaka, using his sensory abilities, sensed chakra that was familiar to him. Uzumaki Naruto, what are you doing in my house? The blonde asked coldly. I'm stupid, how did I forget that he's the best sensor in Konoha? Naruto said to himself. Uzumaki Naruto? Asked Inoichi's wife. As far as I know, this is the grandson of Tsuchikage. You're right, he tore off the mask from his face. Naruto looked at the family with a lifeless gaze, his gaze gave them goosebumps. Why did you come? You know there can be bad consequences, right? The censor said and approached the guy. If you have questions, you could come tomorrow. Dear, why did you approach him? The woman said in a trembling voice. Look at him, he looks like someone who has been through several wars. Don't worry. I know Naruto-kun, I'm sure he came to me on business. You better listen to your wife, Naruto whispered and, grabbing Inoichi by the scruff of the neck, began beating him. His wife and daughter tried to help, but Uzumaki quickly got rid of them using chains. Stop, the man croaked, but these words did not help him. Naruto did not stop hitting. The Uzumaki beat him to death. Looking at his corpse, he kicked it. Inoichi's house was surrounded by a barrier and Naruto's chakra could not be detected. Having disposed of the corpses, he disappeared. Standing on Hokage Mountain, he exhaled. Now there is only one individual left. Danzo, I'm coming for you. Why did you call? Asked the snake Sannin. Orochimaru looked at his interlocutor with interest. The plan is changing, Fugaku said in a rude tone. Uzumaki Naruto began to exterminate the top of Konoha. And this means that the Chunin exam will be cancelled by 99%. This news surprised Orochimaru, and the Sannin began to laugh hysterically. He expected everything, but definitely not this. I have one question, the Uchiha looked questioningly at the brunette. Why did Naruto start this? It's a long story, I'll tell you everything later. The Uchiha avoided the question. Today we will begin to execute our plan. I see, Orochimaru hissed. Fugaku, how do we capture Naruto? We will not openly attack. As my fighters reported to me, Naruto is now busy with the Umbu route. We will not interfere, I am confident of his victory. We will now go to Kushina, I want her to see the death of her son. When he figures it out, we will attack him. I don't understand you, Fugaku. We can capture Naruto-kun now, Orochimaru said displeased. Where such confidence? They are fundamentally very strong fighters, Naruto-kun does not have the strength to kill everyone, and Danzo also has it. And he is made of a tough nut to crack. Orochimaru, Uchiha said Sannin's name with irritation. This Uzumaki was strong enough to exterminate the entire clan. And you think that he won't be strong enough to kill the entire root? Okay, I'll believe you, but if something happens to my vessel, you will be responsible. At his words, Fugaku just snorted. Kushina sat on the sofa and, without looking away, looked at the door. Her heart was beating very fast. Uzumaki was very worried about Naruto. She prayed to all the gods that everything would be fine with her boyfriend. Feeling a dry throat, Kushina wanted to get up, but she couldn't. Looking at her arms and legs, she discovered snakes that were holding her tightly. Snakes? But where from? The red-haired girl asked herself. Uzumaki tried to unhook them, but the snakes tightened their grip and began to bite her hands. Kushina hissed in pain. You don't have to try, I raised these snakes myself. Kushina looked at where the unknown voice was coming from. Seeing Orochimaru and Fugaku in her house, Kushina was horrified. Every sense screamed that they had come with bad intentions. You, she turned angrily at the new guests. Get out of my house. Yours? Asked the representative of the Uchiha clan with a grin. If you didn't know, then all the houses on this territory belong to me. As the head of the clan, I can take your house at any time. He grinned and began to walk towards Kushina, Orochimaru trailing behind him like a tail. You know, Fugaku said slowly and took one of the locks of her hair in his hands. You're like wine, you only get better every year. He took his hands off my hair. She was purple at the compliment, and spat in the face of the head of the Uchiha clan. You don't deserve to touch them. Orochimaru looked at his comrade with a smile. He wanted to see his reaction. Will he raise his hand to the love of his life? You say you're not worthy, and used his sleeve to wipe the drool from his face. If you do this again, then I prescribed strong bream to Kushina several times. There were marks from the blows on the girl's face. The Uchiha placed chakra blockers on her. Darling, please hurry to save me, Kushina thought. And she didn't take her eyes off Fugaku. What do you want from me, freaks? Uzumaki asked. You'll come with us, but you'll find out where you're going, answered Sannin. What? I'm not going anywhere with you, shouted the angry woman. How about you go? Sannin hissed and with a scream began to kick the girl lying on the sofa. You idiot, don't touch her. The Uchiha roared and pushed his friend away from Kushina. Idiot, I need her alive. Your blows can harm her health. In the future, she should give me a healthy child. Orochimaru just grinned. For him, torturing a person was an ordinary thing. He watched Kushina with a smile. He liked how she writhed in pain. You will regret this. He will kick your dirty asses. If you're talking about Naruto-kun, then he won't have the strength to defeat us, Orochimaru answered, picked up a photo frame and began to look at it. Okay, look after her, and I'll pack her things. Saying this, Fugaku went upstairs. What an idiot, thought Orochimaru. Why do you need my things? Kushina shouted after Fugaku. But the Uchiha ignored her question and continued walking. Don't pay attention to him, he's sick, Orochimaru said and took a blade from his cloak. Seeing this, Kushina became wary. This blade is poisoned with a very interesting poison, and approaching the girl, he sat down on his knees. You don't have to be afraid, you won't die, you'll just suffer for a few minutes or hours, and grabbed the girl's left hand. He felt the girl's resistance. Don't resist. Hit the girl in the face. Please don't, tears rolled down my cheeks. Tearing the sleeve of her clothing, Orochimaru began to carve the word film on her arm. Arching over, Kushina screamed throughout the house. She felt very strong pain throughout her body. After 10 minutes of such torment, Orochimaru finished his work. Sometimes Sannin would hit Kushina in the stomach and face for fun. The girl's face took on the color of eggplant, and a trickle came from her nose. Her left side of her face was swollen and turned a dark blue color. Lying on the sofa, she looked at her enemy with tired eyes. Fugaku came down from the second floor with 2 bags. What happened here? Seeing Kushina in poor condition, he instantly ran up to her. What did you do with her? Don't worry, Romeo, she's fine, it's just a temporary effect, the man with dark hair will answer. Okay, let's go, we don't have much time left, and taking his bags, he went to the exit. He has a strange love, Orochimaru thought and looked at the Uchiha. Hey, Uchiha, who will drag her? Orochimaru asked a question. You see that my hands are busy, and he broke down the door with his foot. Orochimaru took the girl by the hair and ran after the Uchiha. It hurts, Kushina said quietly, she could no longer scream. Standing outside the Root Umbu base, Naruto and his friend Kaito inspected it. There were Uzumaki clones on each side. Naruto was about to move the Root base to the summoning world. He could have killed them all himself, but he didn't want to lose any of his limbs. Moreover, I didn't want to see Kushina's tears. Kaito, warn our people, let them prepare for a new portion, Naruto said. But don't touch Shimura Danzo. He is mine. Okay, I heard you. Saying this, the fox disappeared into a white haze. Naruto looked at his counterparts and made a sign. All the clones began to form seals, and gradually black symbols began to cover the entire area of the base. After the disappearance, a huge column of smoke rose, and a deep crater was left on the ground. Danzo immediately felt that something had happened and it was clearly in trouble. All the ANBU appeared in front of him, they immediately got down on one knee. A shinobi with a mole mask emerged from the crowd. Danzo-sama, our sensors do not sense shinobi chakra other than ours. What do you mean, they don't feel it? Are you saying there is no chakra around us? Danzo asked emotionlessly. No, she is, but she doesn't look ordinary. It's darker and more scorching, the ANBU fighter answered. What happened again? Thought the old man. Slowly rising from his chair, Danzo headed towards the exit and signaled for everyone to follow him. The ANBU lined up and followed Danzo. The first thing our guests saw were the trees and huge foxes that surrounded their base. Shimura was speechless, it was his first time in such a situation. The Umbu immediately came to the leader's defense. Finally, you came out, otherwise we already wanted to destroy your house, along with you, said the largest fox, and bared his teeth. Who are you? And where are we now? Danzo still managed to open his mouth. You are in the world of summoning, you have been called by our summoner, answered the fox. If it's not a secret, who is your summoner? Shimura was interested in the identity of the one who decided to attack the elite ANBU unit of Konoha. You'll find out everything yourself later. With these words the foxes began to kill all the ANBU. There was no resistance from the Root shinobi. Danzo noticed that for some reason they were not touching him. Will you come with me? Danzo heard an icy voice behind him. Grabbing their opponent's hair tightly, they disappeared in a red whirlpool. They appeared in the clearing. Naruto threw this old brat away from him. Danzo rolled several times on the muddy ground. Having shaken off all the dust, Danzo stood up and looked angrily at the masked man. For the first few seconds they exchanged glances, and Danzo already understood who was standing in front of him. Maybe you should take off your mask already, I'm very interested in seeing the face of my enemy. Okay, so be it. I'll show you my face before your death, and pulled off the black mask from my face. Droplets of emotion appeared on the face of the emotionless old man. He couldn't imagine that the Tsuchikige's grandson would be his rival. Danzo was a very gifted shinobi, and his mental abilities could be envied by the shinobi of the Nara clan. Danzo now understood everything. But he still had one question that only Naruto could answer. What prompted you to do this? And began to prepare for battle. Inside, Danzo cursed himself for not transplanting the stolen Sharingans, but he certainly did not doubt his abilities. When I found out the plans for Uzumaki Kushina, that day I promised myself that I had to kill all those responsible. The eyes changed their pattern to a red whirlpool. This is the first time I've seen such a Dojutsu, Danzo said to himself and did not take his eyes off Naruto. I see, Danzo said calmly. Remember, I won't feel sorry for you, I won't see that you're the Tsuchikige's grandson. Regret? The guy asked with a grin. Old man, you overestimate yourself, 10 minutes is enough for me to kill you. Watch your language, brat. At my age I can withstand strong shinobi. But we'll see that now, and at full speed he attacked the mummy, as Naruto called him, due to the fact that Danzo was covered in bandages. The two men clashed in taijutsu, in which Uzumaki was much stronger than his opponent. All the blows of the head of the Anbu root were so pathetic and predictable that for the sake of decency, Naruto removed the Uzugen. Danzo jumped and began to raise his leg to strike, he aimed straight for the head. The red-haired one stopped the blow with one hand and nailed him to the ground with all his might. Drawing his katana, Naruto was about to cut off his head, but the enemy quickly dodged and ran away a few meters. And you're quite strong for a small scythe, the man said breathlessly and took out his kunai. Stop wagging your tongue. And with these words he attacked again. He swung and struck obliquely with his sword, cutting through the air. However, his opponent deftly dodged, a cheeky smile appearing on his face. Now he struck, the shiny blade flashed millimeters from the hero's face, making his heart tremble painfully. The sound of metal could be heard throughout the clearing. In Kenjutsu, Danzo could at least resist Naruto. Having repulsed the attack, Uzumaki intended to chop off his hand. The old man put up a block and withstood the entire onslaught of the enemy. That's it, Naruto thought, and soaked the katana with raitan, cutting the kunai like bread and butter. Danzo was about to leave, but received a strong blow to his leg. Having fallen on his butt, Danzo grabbed the sore spot. After the impact, his bones cracked. Uzumaki walked up to him and pinned him to the ground. That's it, old man, I told me 10 minutes would be enough, and he began to rummage through his pockets. You! The old man growled. Now he began to regret not training and staying in shape. Trying to get up only made things worse. Naruto stepped on his chest with his foot. This seal will make you suffer until you die, and attached a red piece of paper with symbols to his forehead. The symbols began to spread throughout the body and the process of torment began. Small insects appeared on Danzo's body, they quickly began to tear off his skin, some crawled into his ear or nose. These parasites ate Danzo alive. No one came to his screams and no one heard them. Naruto has already returned to his world. He exhaled in a relaxed manner and smiled, he had fulfilled his revenge. Now he wanted to see Kushina, hug her tightly and fall asleep in the arms of his loved one. I think she's already been waiting for me, Naruto thought, a happy smile on his face. Here we are, Naruto-kun. Naruto turned his head towards the hissing sound. Fugaku and Orochimaru stood on opposite sides, and Kushina sat on her knees in the middle. Her face said what happened to her recently. Naruto was horrified by this picture. Kushi. A strong autumn wind blew more and more often. The old linden tree trembled under his gusts. The voice of a cuckoo was heard from the hollow of a linden tree. The wind ruffled his red, sparse hair. The Uzumaki looked at the helpless Kushina with a lost look. The Uchiha standing nearby grinned. Now it would be easier for him to kill the young man, because Naruto already looked lost. The Uzumaki pulled away from Kushina and let go of his head, the corners of his lips rose slightly. A giggle was heard from his lips. The two brunettes were surprised by this reaction, they couldn't understand why Naruto was laughing. What funny did you see? Orochimaru shouted, do you not care about your mother? That's not why I'm laughing. Naruto stopped laughing. You guys have sunk to the level that two of you beat a girl. I can't even dare to call you men. Are you going to stand like that? Fugaku had already asked, your mother is now in our captivity, half dead. The Uchiha could not understand Naruto. He spoke calmly, in such a situation. He was already pissed off about this guy, but he tried to hide it. Okay, so I'll show you everything. A kunai appeared in a white haze. Uzumaki threw it at Kushina. It was so fast that even Orochimaru and Fugaku did not react. The kunai pierced the girl's head. The Uchiha ran screaming at the woman who had a kunai sticking out of her head. Orochimaru looked at the guy with surprised eyes. He looked carefully into Naruto's eyes. There was clearly something wrong, and Orochimaru felt it all. Sitting on his knees, Fugaku hugged Kushina to him and tried to save her. No! No! The Uchiha shouted. Now the love of his life was dying in his arms. Kushina, please don't die. Little by little, the girl's body began to turn into a red liquid. The man threw Kushina away from him and looked at his hands. Don't be afraid, it's blood, Sannin noted. Fugaku looked to where the girl should have been, but she was not there. The clearing was all stained with blood. Yes, what's going on here? The Uchiha asked himself nervously. Is it really a bloody clone? Orochimaru thought with a bit of shock. Naruto watched the two men with a smile and was amused by their reactions. How easily they deceived them. It's a pity you can't see their faces, Kushina, Naruto said to himself. Where is my Kushina? Exclaimed the head of the Uchiha clan. A fit of rage completely took over the man's mind. Quickly returned it to me. Oh, then I'll destroy you. Choose the right words, Uchiha. Uzumaki said with disgust. I give you the last warning. Where is Uzumaki Kushina? Where did you hide it? Do you seriously want to know where she is? Seeing an angry nod, he continued, I had doubts about you. I foresaw such an outcome, so that there would be no problems. I sent her to the world of summoning. And so that no one would notice the loss, they created a bloody clone, and activated their eyes. I gave you a chance, but you missed it. Now only death awaits you. Oh, this is what they look like. I urgently need to put a mark on it, and he licked his lips with his long tongue. And picked up the sword, Kusanagi. Orochimaru, what are we going to do? Preparing for battle, the Uchiha asked a question. Well, we definitely won't kill him. First of all, I will put a damned seal on it. Using tablets we will speed up printing to the second level. And then it will just be up to me. I really didn't understand. How do we get Kushina back? The Uchiha asked the question again. Fugaku, you idiot. Sannin shouted at his partner, having captured his body, I will be able to use all his techniques, and I will definitely return your Kushina. The Uchiha nodded understandingly and prepared for battle. Hey, love couple, will you be talking for a long time? Naruto asked a provocative question. Orochimaru ignored these words, but Fugaku could not resist. These words hurt the Uchiha pride. Minato was in his office and thought about today's news. There was a huge stack of papers on the table that he needed to finish before tomorrow. The Hokage was exhausted. He wanted to fall asleep on his desk. He didn't know what to do. The murder of the elders and the disappearance of the clan shook the Hokage a little, but the death of Inoichi Yamanaka, Chuza Akimichi, and Hayashi Hyuga finished off Minato. If the exam is cancelled, a ton of negativity will come to Konoha. People from distant countries came to take this exam, and I didn't want to disappoint them. Namikaze did not come up with anything and decided to simply cancel the exam. Taking a break from his work, Minato leaned back in his chair and exhaled tiredly. So there is no other way out, but we need to consult with Danzo. Maybe he'll come up with something. But that's later, thought the blonde. Under his table lay the corpse of Shikaku Nara. Minato knew that after Inoichi's death the bookmarks would fall off, and he killed him just in case so that he would not blurt out anything unnecessary. Such a loss will not affect military power in any way, because the head of the Nara clan also has a son. They say he surpasses his father in mental abilities. They didn't take their eyes off each other. The Uzumaki's eyes darted around, none of them was about to attack first. The Uchiha couldn't stand the staring contest and lunged at Naruto. Fugaku moved very quickly for his age, the Uchiha swung and his fist flew towards the enemy's head. The man was going to end the battle with one blow. Bowing his head, Naruto was about to hit the solar plexus from his knee. Fugaku simply did not have time to block, because the blow was very fast. He is saved in time by Orochimaru. The Sannin was angry with the Uchiha. Seems to be an experienced shinobi, but makes childish mistakes. If the blow had reached its target, there was a 70% chance that the Uchiha would lose consciousness. Fugaku, what are you doing? Sannin shouted at the man standing next to him. For you, the battle could end now, don't go into trouble. You see that you can't handle him alone, you need to attack with two. This way we will have more chances. This battle cannot be dragged out for a long time, otherwise my body will not withstand such stress, Orochimaru said to himself. I could have stopped shouting and said it in a normal voice. He didn't like being yelled at and pointing out his mistakes. Okay, but now we will act according to my plan. You will attack from the right, and I will attack from the left, and we will alternate. We fight with full force, but don't go too far, otherwise the vessel may die, and turned his head. You understood me? The Uchiha only nodded, showing that everything was clear to him. Naruto put the katana back in its place and crossed his arms, catching his opponent's weapons with his bare hands. Orochimaru was surprised by Naruto's reaction. Even at his maximum speed, he did nothing. You move like snails, and it's funny for me to look at you, squeezing his opponent's weapons tighter and breaking them in half. And your weapon is too fragile. Jumping up, he did a split in the air and hit two men. Orochimaru and Fugaku were thrown to the sides. The blow was too strong. This became a sign that they should no longer be allowed to be beaten by the Uzumaki. It seems I underestimated him, and I may pay for it, thought the snake Sannin. Lifting his body from the ground, Orochimaru attacked himself while his friend moved away from the blow. Naruto found himself near Orochimaru and wanted to blow his head off, but Orochimaru spat out a new blade and parried the Uzumaki's blow. The clang of metal rang through the cave. The red-haired man began to go on the offensive with his blade, but it was not so easy. Orochimaru was an excellent swordsman and parried all of Naruto's attacks, which were echoed by new sounds of clanging metal and scratches on the Uzumaki blade. Orochimaru's eyes looked like a madman. He had not fought at full strength for so long, and here was a truly dangerous opponent who forced Orochimaru to give his all. Naruto was somewhat similar to him. The Uzumaki was also enjoying the battle. For several years he trained and gained experience in battles, which made him one of the most dangerous shinobi. Naruto loved battles and even very much. Many would call him crazy, but Naruto didn't care. Naruto really enjoyed the fight that Orochimaru was giving him. They were both excellent swordsmen and began to see which of them would emerge victorious. If there were observers, one could say that the battle was like a dance that dazzles with its lethality and beauty. Both were fast and deadly. Blow by blow, swing by swing, Naruto tried to hurt Orochimaru, but he defended himself, but sometimes he carried out counterattacks, which were also repelled. With an irritated click, Naruto jumped away from Orochimaru and began to make seals. Kato, an explosion of dancing flames, the young man blew out a stream of fire, which took the shape of a spiral. You can't defeat me with this technique, and began to make hand seals. Doton, mud wave, he put his hand on the ground and shook it up. An invisible wave of energy came from Sannin and quickly dispelled the technique. Naruto didn't stop there and started making seals again. Fire element, "Great fireball," said Uzumaki, and a huge ball of hot flame flew out of his mouth, which Sannin wanted to fry. However, he did not remain indebted to Naruto. "Water release, water wall," said Sannin, and a wall of water appeared in front of his body, which absorbed Naruto's technique, thereby creating steam in which it was difficult to see anything. "Here is the snake, he buried himself," Naruto thought, and a grin appeared on his face. Uzumaki flew into the steam and hit Orochimaru with his fist in the face, and he was thrown back several meters. In this pair, Naruto had a huge advantage thanks to his eyes, but Orochimaru had experience in battles on his side, and even a lot of it. Both were similar in battle, fast, merciless and cruel. Orochimaru's taijutsu style was flexible and fast strikes, while Naruto's was hard, fast and deadly strikes, after which it was difficult to fight. Naruto hit without sparing his body. He began to enjoy this battle more and more. He held back and did not hit with full force. Using all his power, Naruto would destroy the entire forest. Oh, and the Anbu and the Hokage will come to the noise. The battle had already lasted for several hours. Orochimaru couldn't stand it for long. After a half-hour battle, Naruto gained the upper hand over his opponent. No matter how many times you kill him, Orochimaru is reborn every time. And this really pissed Naruto off. "I'm starting to get tired of this," Naruto said and threw a roundhouse kick at the Sannin, who flew into the wall, but at the last second he blocked and the blow wasn't as strong, but most of the bones were broken and Orochimaru opened his mouth wide. A second copy began to emerge from it with a smirk on its face. "This was my last copy, now I won't be able to be reborn again," thought Sannin. Orochimaru went on the defensive, he had already forgotten Fugaku. Sannin will do everything to win, he needs Naruto, he will live enough time with his body. And you won't have to change bodies every 3 years. Fugaku sat on a branch and watched Naruto. All this time, the Uchiha analyzed Naruto's fighting and taijutsu style. He was waiting for the perfect moment to attack. The Uchiha was going to attack from behind. Naruto wiped the sweat from his forehead and exhaled happily, it had been so long since he had fought. Uzumaki was a little disappointed, he didn't think that one of the trio of Great Sannin would be so weak. "This is my chance." Grabbing the kunai tightly, the Uchiha rushed from his place. It was the perfect moment, because the enemy's back was open. Uzumaki clearly felt the danger behind him, he did not forget about him. Naruto was waiting for this moment and the Uchiha came out of his hiding place. Abruptly moving to the side, he grabbed his opponent's hand and hit the ground with all his might. "Did you seriously think that I forgot about you?" Naruto asked, holding the Uchiha's hand. "How pathetic you are, attacking from behind is the act of a rat." Fugaku said in a hoarse tone and coughed up blood. This is how they would have stood if not for the huge purple tail that Naruto threw away. The Uzumaki flew several meters away. For the first time in the fight he felt pain. A huge purple snake appeared next to the Uchiha, with Orochimaru standing on its head. Seeing this, Naruto smiled, could he now see the full power of the snake Sannin? Rising to his feet, he headed towards his enemies. "Orochimaru, why did you summon your snake?" asked the Uchiha, and barely got to his feet. "You do understand that we can be noticed, right? Don't be afraid, they won't notice us. Activate your beautiful eyes and fight to the fullest." The 3 black tomo began to spin rapidly, and the eyes took on a pattern of 3 rotating curves around the pupil with 3 dots near each, which twisted around the pupil counterclockwise. "I won't be able to fight the activated Mangyoke for long," warned the snake, Fugaku. "Don't be afraid, we'll deal with him quickly now," Sannin said in a hissing voice. Naruto looked at Fugaku, and was surprised with Mangyoke. He saw the Mangyoke Sharingan with his own eyes for the first time. Meanwhile, Fugaku prepared his technique. Naruto will definitely not be able to dodge this technique. Closing his eyes, he sharply opened them, and a trickle of blood flowed from his eyes. Amaterasu, the Uchiha shouted. A small black flame enveloped Naruto. Amaterasu is a technique that cannot be blocked, however, if the opponent moves fast enough to make it difficult for the eye to hit them, the flames will miss and instead form on other objects in the field of view. This flame will burn for 7 days and 7 nights. It cannot be extinguished either with water or other conventional methods. Only the owner can make the flame go out. A very powerful technique, it's a pity I can't use it. The main thing is that this idiot doesn't kill him, thought Orochimaru. He definitely won't be able to escape from Amaterasu, the Uchiha thought with a nasty smile. Naruto quickly took off his outerwear and stepped aside. He heard about this fire from Inoki. Fugaku, come on! Orochimaru shouted. And he ordered his snake to attack Naruto. The Uchiha formed the skeleton Susanoo and repeated after his friend. A red transparent warrior appeared around Naruto, holding a round-shaped shield in one hand. The avatar grabbed the snake by the neck with one hand, and with the help of a shield repelled the Uchiha's attack. Orochimaru and Fugaku were surprised by this technique. The Uchiha noticed that the warrior looked like the Uchiha Susanoo. The Sannin was more surprised by Naruto's strength, and he wanted to quickly capture Naruto. Throwing the snake away from him, Naruto hit Uchiha Susanoo with all his might. Orochimaru destroyed several dozen trees. Cracks began to appear in Susanoo, and the Uchiha began to use more chakra to maintain Susanoo. After the second blow, Susanoo won't be able to withstand it, Naruto thought. And he was about to strike again, but he was stopped by the purple Susanoo. Naruto and Fugaku were surprised and looked at the new guest. Standing between them was Uchiha Mikoto with her Mangyoke Sharingan activated. You could tell by her facial expression that she was angry. The men were perplexed by Mikoto's arrival. Mikoto? What are you doing here? The man asked his wife. What are you doing here? The woman shouted at her husband and looked at her friend's son. Naruto-kun, where is Kushina now? Kushina is at home now, Naruto lied. Mikoto frowned at Naruto's answer. The woman did not like that they were blatantly lying to her face. She looked at the liar with a murderous gaze. Yes, how dare you lie to me? The woman shouted. I was at her house, and Kushina wasn't there. Something obviously happened to her. You're right, but you don't have to worry about Kushina, she's fine, Naruto answered calmly. Mikoto cooled her ardor a little, she did not feel the lies in the Uzumaki's words. But she still had many questions. Now tell me vividly why you are fighting? She was saved from so-called death by Naruto, who reacted to the attack. Putting her on her feet, Naruto looked at Orochimaru. Mikoto had not yet come to her senses, she did not understand what had just happened. Still the same, do you only know how to attack a rat? Mikoto covered her mouth to keep from screaming in horror. She did not understand why her husband was together with the apostate. Yes, what's going on here? The brunette shouted to the whole forest. Fugaku, maybe you'll already tell your wife, and turned his gaze to the Uchiha. I think there's no point in lying to your wife, she deserves to know the whole truth. Okay, and closed his eyes. Mikoto, I never loved you. I married you only to continue my family line, but I never loved you. My heart belongs only to Kushina, I have loved her since the academy. Mikoto was shocked by Fugaku's words, she didn't want to believe it. She felt a strong prick near her heart. Falling to her knees she began to sob. Darling, tell me you're joking, and raised her head, she wanted to hear that it was just a joke. But I saw, as always, a cold look and a negative answer. How? How could you? I loved you. And you've been lying to me all your life, damn you Fugaku. Tears came from her eyes, like from a waterfall, without ceasing to stop. Mikoto was devastated. Her whole life was a deception, but she had to live, because she had sons whom she loved with all her heart. Naruto tried to somehow calm the woman down, but nothing worked. "Naruto-kun, you don't have to worry about me, I'm fine now," and she wiped away all her tears. Nodding, Naruto walked away from Mikoto and prepared to fight again. If I win, then I can take the Sharingan," Orochimaru thought with an ominous smile. "Fugaku, you remember the rule, when a husband and wife get married, they swear an oath to each other that they will never betray, but if they betray, death is the one who violated the rule," the woman said coldly. Fugaku was surprised at her tone. He had never heard his wife talk like that. "And so what? Do you think you'll kill me?" the man asked mockingly. "No. We will die together, #NFD, our sons no longer needed." "Uki, I won't win you any other way," and took off the top part of my clothes, leaving only my bra on. Orochimaru whistled at what he saw. Naruto didn't understand what Mikoto wanted to do, but he was going to stop her. "Mikoto-san, you don't have to die, I can kill your husband myself." "No, Naruto-kun, this matter concerns only the two of us. Please don't bother me," and took a kunai from her pouch. "Tell Kushina that it was my choice and not to worry." Mikoto ran the kunai over the strange pattern. Only Fugaku understood what his ex-wife wanted to do. "Mikoto, don't you dare. Use your stupid head, we still have children." Fugaku shouted, panicking a little. "I think Sasuke and Itachi will understand me and let them know that their father was a complete asshole. Remember, Izanagi will not help you." And looked at her friend's son with a sad smile. "Naruto-kun, take my eye," and she sharply tore out her left eye. "Take it and replant it for yourself. I want to see Kushina's future with my own eyes. I hope you make her happy." Naruto sealed his eye and looked at Mikoto with regret. He made a promise that he would make Kushina happy. "I'll see you in the other world, dear." And stabbed the kunai into the same drawing. Mikoto and Fugaku instantly fell to the ground, their heart stopping, indicating that they had died. Do they really put such marks in the Uchiha clan? The Furseti mark is a very ancient technique of the Uzumaki clan. I don't understand how this technique ended up in the hands of the Uchiha, thought Orochimaru, and saw no other way out but to retreat back, because the forces were not equal. "Where are we going?" Naruto saw Orochimaru in front of him. Uzumaki's appearance has undergone changes. Hermit mode? Asked himself the last question in his life. Naruto cut off his head. "We need to leave, several Umbu squads are coming here." Having said this, Naruto disappeared. Kushina sat near the porch of the house and talked with Kaido's wife. The woman wanted to see her lover faster. Naruto himself appeared not far from the house. Noticing Naruto, Kushina ran towards him as fast as she could, hugging him, #NFD, LOL what? And yes, Beta 4. I'm leaving the post, I would like to see your reaction in the reviews. Naruto grabbed the red-haired girl and hugged her tightly. Kushina wrapped her two legs around Naruto's torso and pushed him to the ground. "They came, am I right?" Kushina asked quietly. "Yeah," Naruto replied shortly. "But I have bad news for you." Kushina looked questioningly at the nervous boy. Naruto took the girl's hand tightly. "It just so happened that Mikoto died." "What?" She looked at Naruto and wanted to hear that this was not true. "Please tell me that this is not true." "Really, forgive me," the guy whispered and hugged the girl tightly. Kushina's soul was turned upside down. Just the thought of Mikoto being dead made everything worse. Tears began to gather in my eyes, and with each passing second it became more and more difficult to breathe. Everything ended as expected, a nervous breakdown and hospital. A girl with blood-scarlet hair was lying on a hospital bed and was quietly snoring. His hair was in disarray, and some kind of mask of peace was frozen on his face. It was surrounded by many wires leading to various sensors. Naruto was very worried about Kushina. After all, his mother had been lying in this condition for 2 days. At this difficult moment, his closest people supported him, saying that everything will be fine. And Naruto hoped so. Standing outside Kushina's room, he waited for the doctor with the results. Suddenly the door opened and a young girl came out of the room. Her straight hair reaches her shoulders. The forehead is covered by slightly tousled bangs, laid to one side. 2 short strands of hair cover her ears and frame her face. On her feet, she wears open-toed sandals and low heels. Like all doctors, she wore a white coat. She held several papers in her hands. How is she doing? She's fine. Naruto immediately started asking questions. Calm down, the young girl asked in a calm voice. Nothing threatens her health, she needs peace. I think in a few hours she will come to her senses, and looking up from the papers, the brunette looked at Naruto to see if he had any other questions. Do you have any other questions? No. The boy shook his head, but, I want to thank you, and bowed to the doctor. No, it's my job. Having finished the sentence, she went about her business. Naruto sat on the bench and waited for Kushina to wake up. Opening her eyes, Kushina found herself in a bright room. Where am I? The girl asked herself. And she began to look around. Her friend stood about 5 meters from Uzumaki. There was a sad smile on his face. After all, this is the last time she will see her best friend. The kunoichi's eyes widened in shock, tears welling up in her eyes. The red-haired girl began to tremble, her legs gave way and, unable to resist, Kushina began to fall. But Mikoto, who managed to catch her, did not let her fall. Mikoto, she said in a whisper. The girl somehow childishly covered the brunette's cheek with her hand. You're alive. She couldn't believe her eyes. Kushina clearly remembered that Mikoto died during the battle. Unfortunately, no, small tears were dripping from her eyes. It hurt her to look at her friend. I came to say goodbye to you. Tell me it's not true. The kunoichi shouted, and quickly found herself in the Uchiha's arms. Mikoto began to calm Kushina, but she herself did not stop shedding tears. Kushina, please don't cry, the brunette asked her to calm down. And she sat down next to Kushina. Uzumaki began to calm down a little. You said you came to say goodbye? The Uchiha silently nodded to her question. But I'm not going to let you go, because you're part of my little family. Moisture appeared in my eyes. Kushina, just accept the fact that I'm already dead, and I can't be brought back. She had to console Uzumaki again. Mikoto understood that it would be difficult for Kushina to accept this. But, she must do it. The Uchiha soothed her friend like a small child. Having calmed down, Kushina pulled away from Mikoto. Not even though she acknowledged her friend's death. Mikoto, let me look after your children. I know that Fugaku died. Kushina wanted to do something nice for the last time. No need. Sasuke and Itachi are already adults, I think they will be able to take care of themselves. She was pleased that Kushina thought about them first. They sat like that for a few minutes enjoying each other. Do you remember how we first met? And a smile appeared on her face. Of course I remember, and I began to remember that day. For her, meeting Kushina was the best thing that happened in her childhood. Flashback. It was hot in Konoha today. The street was fairly empty, except for the occasional passing of shinobi heading towards the main gate. The rest were hiding in their homes, or in small stalls selling soft drinks or ice cream. There were children of all ages on the playground, playing different games. All these children were having fun and shouting joyfully. But except for one girl, her red hair immediately caught the eye. Sitting on a swing, she looked with envious eyes at the children playing. This girl's name was Uzumaki Kushina, or as the inhabitants called her, the Demoness. due to the fact that the Kyubi no Yoko was sealed in her. The residents were afraid of her and ordered their children not to play with her. Uzumaki knew why she was treated this way. She did everything to prove that she was not dangerous and that she was also a person like everyone else. Every resident tried to insult or humiliate her in some way, while it didn't come down to assault or worse. To all this, Kushina smiled widely, hiding all her pain. Each of her pranks ended with angry shouts and a trip to the Hokage, where Sarutobi gave a whole lecture. Uzumaki lived in the most disadvantaged area. Her house was supported by snot. She was paid an allowance due to the fact that she was an orphan. She had no friends as such. No matter how much she tried to make friends, they sent her away or ran away shouting, "The Demoness is coming." Hearing such phrases addressed to her, it became painful for Kushina and she began to withdraw into herself. Exhaling confidently, she got off the swing and walked towards the playing children. Kushina walked up to the largest child. "Hello," the girl greeted politely, "can I play with you?" "What?" And squinted at the scarlet-haired one, "Are you playing with us?" "Yes, never." "Go away, you damned brat." Other children began to gather at his cry, "Guys, just look who came." The thug turned to his friends. "But, I just want to play," and squeezed my hands tighter. "Why can't you accept me, Databane? We will never play with you." There goes the Demoness with strange words. And other children began to support the boy. They started throwing stones at Kushina so that the girl had to run away from this place to avoid being beaten. Uzumaki ran for a very long time until she got tired. Looking back, making sure there was no pursuit, she sat down next to the tree. Tears were dripping from her eyes. "I'll become Hokage, and everyone will be jealous," Kushina thought cheerfully. She noticed the sound of a broken branch. Kushina was alarmed by this and stood up from her seat. "Is there anyone here?" shouted the little girl. A girl her age with pitch-black hair came out from around the corner of a tree. Uzumaki immediately recognized her. She was a girl from the Uchiha clan. Kushina prepared to run, but was stopped by a stranger. "Don't be afraid, I won't touch you." Her voice sounded warm and affectionate. Ku watched her in fascination. Her night-black eyes captivated me at first sight. "How do I know what's in your head?" Kushina didn't lose her cool. "Maybe you also want to do some nasty things to me." "I honestly won't touch it," and she raised her hands, showing that she had no intention of doing anything bad. The Uchiha began to slowly walk towards Kushina. Kushina still stood on guard. When there was 1.5 meters between them, the brunette tightly hugged the standing Kushina. Uzumaki, meanwhile, was at a loss. She doesn't really know her, but she's already trying to hug her. Pushing her away from her, Kushina looked menacingly at the Uchiha. "What are you allowing yourself to do?" Kushina shouted at the Uchiha. At her cry, the girl calmly smiled. "Why yell like that?" "I just wanted to get to know each other," and extended my hand for a handshake. "My name is Mikoto Uchiha, what's yours?" Kushina was surprised by the words of this stranger. It was the first time someone wanted to meet her. Inside, the scarlet-haired woman was seething with joy. She wanted to jump and scream with joy. A sudden change in mood was common for the young Uzumaki. "Oh, my name is Uzumaki Kushina," and she happily shook hands. "Nice to meet you, Mikoto-chan." "And I'm also pleased to meet you, Kushina," and pulled her along with her. "Come with me, I'll show you an interesting place." Uzumaki happily agreed to Mikoto's proposal. The Uzumaki and Uchiha ran towards the exit of the forest with joyful cries. That's how their friendship began. The end flashback. Those were good days, right, Kushina? She turned her gaze to her friend sitting next to her. "Yeah," the girl answered with a dreamy smile. "It's a pity, you won't be able to walk like in the old days," and she became depressed. Kushina, and finally hugged her only friend. "Remember. Live for yourself. A lot of suffering will await you in the future. I am sure that you will not lose your way and will go towards your goal no matter what," and her body began to glow, indicating that the time has come. Goodbye. The last thing Mikoto heard before disappear. Several days have already passed, during which time several events have occurred. The Chunin exam was cancelled. Minato didn't even lie and explained the reason for the cancellation. All of Konoha was then in shock. Residents began to be afraid to go out in the evening, in case an unknown killer attacked them in the evening. The Hokage sent several umbu after his head. The families of the victims were in grief. Now everyone wanted revenge. Clan heads have been updated. Mikoto's sons awakened the Mangyoke Sharingan. In a few days a funeral will take place in honor of the deceased. The tourists and genin were unhappy with this news. The news quickly spread throughout the village. And by the end of the day, all of Konoha was plunged into mourning. Naruto woke up and went to the hospital to see Kushina. His mother was able to recover from the death of her friend. Walking down the street, he noticed a sweet store and decided to buy them for Kushina. While going to the hospital, he met the Namikaze family in the park. Naruto held on so as not to immediately break into Minato and kill him. He would have killed him, but he doubted his strength. Naruto knew that the village leaders were very strong shinobi, and it was not for nothing that they would be trusted with an entire village. He heard that Minato is a very strong shinobi. It's not for nothing that he is called the Yellow Lightning of Konoha. But the fact that he destroyed several thousand shinobi of the stone, thereby ending the Third Shinobi World War, this strained Uzumaki. He thought that Namikaze had monstrous strength. It was not for nothing that Toad Sannin trained him. Uzumaki looked at the blonde's back with a murderous gaze. Minato's wife noticed him and waved her hand at him. Naruto quickly turned away and went about his business, ignoring the Uchiha. Kushina was due to be discharged today and he had no intention of being late. Hospital. Naruto entered Kushina's room. She stood and looked out the window. She knew who came to her. He left the food near the nightstand. He slowly, as if afraid of doing something wrong, approached her. He came almost close to her from behind and hugged her. "Hello, how are you feeling?" asked Naruto. "Hello, I'm feeling good, but it will be great after." Without finishing the sentence, she turned 180 degrees in his arms and kissed him. "Now that's great. I'm glad that everything is fine with you," and removed one of the curls from her face. "I brought you sweets, looked at the nightstand, will you?" "And how?" the girl exclaimed as if like a child. Kushina loved candy very much, but tried not to overindulge. As a doctor, she knew what the consequences would be. Lying on his lap, Kushina ate from her partner's hands. They absolutely loved it. Naruto fed his mother with a warm smile. Taking a napkin, Naruto wiped the stains off the girl's cheek. "You're my clumsy one," Uzumaki whispered and threw the napkin in the trash. "Who would say?" the girl chuckled, but she liked the way he called her. "Any news?" "Well, the exam was cancelled and the funeral will take place," Naruto answered and took Kushina's hands. The last words could reflect badly and touch old wounds. "Naru, don't worry about me, I'm fine." She closed her eyes. "How are Deidara and Kuratsuchi? How did they react to the exam being cancelled?" "Well, they freaked out for a few days and calmed down," Naruto shrugged. "I think grandfather will assign them the rank of Chunin." They communicated sweetly and casually, kissing from time to time. So the hours flew by. Every visit of Naruto was happiness for Kushina, and every second with her was happiness for him. Until a nurse entered the room. Kushina signed several papers and was discharged. Naruto revealed that he had Mikoto's Sharingan and offered to transplant it into Kushina, but the scarlet-haired woman refused. But she offered an alternative: let Naruto transplant this eye. Naruto reluctantly agreed. He was going to give the Sharingan to Kushina so that Mikoto could see her future with her own eyes, but now she would see it from the perspective of her son. It was raining heavily in Konohagakure no Sato. The gray sky put the villagers in a depressive mood. There wasn't a single soul on the street. Today, every resident came to say goodbye to the people who protected them from threats. That day, Kushina felt differently. All the best moments with Mikoto appeared before her eyes. Uzumaki went to Mikoto's funeral to say goodbye to her one last time. She took her son with her to support her in difficult times. Yes, everyone grieved, but unlike the others, Kushina's grief was mixed with burning rage. If she had the chance, she would resurrect Fugaku and kill him with her own hands. A long ceremonial speech began, which Kushina did not listen very carefully to. For a long time she looked at the open coffin where her friend lay, and not far from her lay Fugaku Uchiha, but this was not so important. Kushina's heart was breaking with pain and self-hatred for leaving her to her fate. Clinging to his hand, Kushina cried quietly. Fugaku's sons stood next to them. There was not a drop of emotion on their faces, only a cold look. "Everything will be fine," Naruto said, calming Kushina. They stood like that saying goodbye for several hours, and slowly people began to disperse. Our heroes also began to gather, but they were detained by Kiyomi Uchiha. "Kiyomi-san, do you need something?" Kushina asked with tear-stained eyes. "Yes, I wanted to support you," and hugged the standing girl. "Everything will be fine. I understand you, because I also lost loved ones. I'm sure Mikoto didn't want to see you like that. It's difficult for you now, but yours will definitely change in the future. Your soul and body will gradually recover. Thank you." Uzumaki thanked her for her support. She did not expect to hear such words from her. No, they were not enemies, they just never had contact. And both girls pulled away from each other. Before leaving, Kiyomi spoke separately with Naruto and asked him not to leave Kushina in this state. Returning home, Kushina fell asleep from fatigue, and Naruto began to pack her things. In a few days they must leave this rotten village. And then the day of departure or escape came. Naruto really wanted to kill Namikaze, but common sense and the desire to leave quietly stopped him. Naruto sat and thought about how to leave quietly and with great advantage for himself. He wanted to annoy Konoha. And so he figured out how to do it. He was going to take all the scrolls. Naruto knew where the scrolls of the Uzumaki clan were kept. Kushina told him about it. After the destruction of Uzushio, the Konoha people took all the scrolls that they managed to find. On the last night in Konoha, Naruto took all the secrets of his clan. Our main character damaged the barrier that covered the entire village a little more. After changing her clothes, Kushina quietly approached Naruto from behind and hugged him. Quietly whispering in the ear of your beloved, "I love you." Naruto, unexpectedly, stood in a stupor for about 10 seconds, but then he turned around and kissed the red-haired girl, and she was only happy about it. Air, as you know, is not endless, so the kiss had to be broken. "I love you too, but we have to go," said Naruto, who was already impatient to leave this village. "Fine." Kushina answered this. Naruto agreed with Kushina that she would stay in the summoning world for several days. The girl did not object but calmly agreed, because it would be safer. Taking her to the stone was a bad idea. Naruto began making hand seals for the technique. Having struck the floor, a column of smoke appeared, and an old acquaintance came out. "So the time has come," the fox made sure, and with his tails he took small bags with things. "Kushi, don't be bored without me there." Uzumaki said goodbye and smiled warmly. "I miss you already," and finally hugged my son. "Everything will be fine," Naruto said calmly and patted her on the back. "When I arrive, we will go together to the ruins of our clan." "I can't wait," muttered the girl. How long she had not been in her homeland, and she quickly wanted to visit Uzushio. Having calmed down, Kushina approached her son Sensei. Kaito gave his word that everything would be fine with Kushina, and they disappeared in a white haze. Before leaving, Naruto removed all traces and used one of his eye abilities to move quickly. Genin from the stone were already standing near the main gate, they were waiting for the last teammate. Kuratsuchi and Akatsuchi stood calmly and looked at the floating clouds, and the blonde could not remain calm, he walked and wound in circles. Yes, where is he? Deidara shouted with irritation in his voice. They had been standing for half an hour, and it was also very hot today. Kuratsuchi looked angrily at the guy who had been getting on her nerves all this time. You idiot, shut up. The brunette shouted at her boyfriend. Don't want. Answered the demolition man, damn, we've been waiting for him for a very long time, he can't say goodbye quickly. They are just friends, but they say goodbye as if they had been friends for several years. Deidara, and put her palm to her face, they became very good friends this month, and as I understand it, Kushina has become a very dear person in Naruto's life. That's why he's been gone for so long. I understand how Kushina-san feels. After all, it's difficult to say goodbye to a person to whom you are very attached. Deidara thought about Kuratsuchi's words, but Naruto came to his happiness. Sorry it took so long, but I have some small problems, Naruto justified himself, scratching the back of his head. You don't have to make excuses, Kuratsuchi said with a grin, she knew that her brother couldn't lie. How's Kushina-san? She's fine. You don't have to worry, she's fine, and turned his back to his comrades, he didn't want to dwell on this topic. Uzumaki ended up on a branch in a long time, don't lag behind. Deidara and Kuratsuchi looked at each other and shrugged their shoulders and ran after Naruto. Akatsuchi silently followed his students. 5 days have passed since the end of the Chunin exams. Everything was fine in Konoha, everyone was minding their own business. No one noticed the disappearance of the only Uzumaki, and no one thought about it. Today the clan meeting was supposed to take place, where the latest incidents would be discussed. There was silence in the hall. The heads of the clans analyzed everyone, and thought only about the benefits for them, so that their clan would prosper. All this silence was destroyed by Yondaime Namikaze, Minato. Everyone turned their gaze to the Hokage. Well, since we have gathered here today, I would like to discuss the situation that amazed us all, Namikaze began, looking around at everyone. But now we will put our main problem on the back burner. We still have unfinished business. And what unfinished business remains? Mikoto's eldest son asked coldly. After the death of his parents, he and Sasuke became indifferent, they spent the whole day at the training ground, the Uchihas wanted revenge. Itachi did not like that the Hokage put Konoha's main problem on the second level. At the previous meeting, we discussed military power, and we came to the same conclusion. Uzumaki Kushina should become a Sao, because children from this clan become strong warriors. And if you mix the Uzumaki genes with other clans, then our village will have ninjas who will be at the Kage level in the future, and began to wait for the reaction of those present. A girl with dark blue hair stood up from her seat, and her eyes told which clan she belonged to. Hokage, herself, don't you think this is somehow too cruel? Tried to make a cold tone, but to put it mildly, she didn't succeed. Even after the death of her father, Hinata did not become a tyrant, but kept a tough mask and trained more. To the right of the Hokage sat Nara Shikamaru, he became the head of his clan, and was the right hand of the Hokage. The strategist attracted everyone's attention. I think the Hokage is doing everything right. After all, the military power of our village has really sagged, and we need to sacrifice something. Yes, it looks selfish, but we have no other choice, Nara expressed his opinion. I agree with the Hokage's proposal, the head of the Akimichi clan gave his voice. In the future, any village can attack Konoha, and we must have strong ninjas. Everyone began to support the Hokage and his plan. Minato was happy about this. When do we start? The blonde asked his question, his eyes were emerald. He was the head of the Yamanaka clan, there was no one else for the post of head. After all, he was Inoichi's cousin. Yes, right now. I don't want to leave this for later. Minato looked at his new advisor. Niji, where is Kushina? My ninjas should deliver her in 5 minutes, the Byakugan owner answered in a rude tone. Minato nodded and everyone began to wait silently. Just as Niji said, 5 minutes later, ninjas from the Hyuga clan appeared. But they were without Kushina and everyone noticed it. Minato immediately frowned, and bad thoughts came to his head. Where is Uzumaki Kushina? Niji immediately asked a question. He didn't want problems from the Hokage. Forgive us, Niji-san, but Uzumaki Kushina was absent from her house. We searched all over Konoha, but she is not in the village. We managed to detect her chakra in the house and that's it, the ninja reported. Everyone looked in surprise at Minato, who was emitting a murderous aura. Niji and Shikamaru, who were sitting on either side of the Hokage, moved away. The boys couldn't be near Minato. They were not resistant to such an aura. Are you saying that she disappeared in broad daylight? Who was on duty today? Minato growled. With a snap of his finger, he remembered his friend's last words. Was he really right? But how? Too many questions, but not enough answers, thought Minato Namikaze. Take several squads and find this slut. Search the entire territory of the Fire Country. Minato gave the order. The ninja just said, "Hi," and quickly left the office. Hokage-sama, is it possible? Shikamaru asked. Minato nodded his head indicating that he could continue. I had a few thoughts about this. Firstly, how was Kushina-san able to leave the village? If she had left, specialists from the Yamanaka clan would have immediately noticed it. Secondly, during the exam, I noticed that Kushina-san was constantly next to the guest from the stone. Thirdly, this morning we learned about the disappearance of several scrolls of the Uzumaki clan. My verdict: Uzumaki Kushina left the stone with the shinobi. Everyone was surprised at this argument. And you really are smart. Everyone looked at the new guest with bewilderment. Everyone had a look of shock on their faces. Orochimaru was in the hall. Everyone present remembered that Orochimaru was killed. But now he stood before them alive and unharmed. Orochimaru? How did you survive? The Hokage asked with indescribable horror and prepared for battle. Everyone got up from their seats. This reaction amused Sannin. He took one of the chairs and sat on it. Don't be afraid of me, kids, the man said with an obvious grin. I came to you with one thing. What are you even talking about? We will not listen to a renegade of SS rank. We have only one conversation with people like you, and activated the Mangyoke Sharingan. Calm down, Uchiha Itachi, I am not your enemy, and raised both hands. If you listen to me, you will recognize the killer of your parents. These words infuriated Itachi even more, but Minato stopped him in time. Namikaze knew that Orochimaru would never come to Konoha just like that. Say what you know. Minato demanded. Orochimaru asked everyone to take their seats. When everyone took their places, Sannin stood in the middle of the hall. And he took out several documents from his cloak. These documents contain everything you want to know, and I gave each one a document. Taking it in hand, everyone began to read. Everyone's eyes almost fell out from what they read. They didn't believe what was written on these pieces of paper. Why should we believe you? Shikamaru asked suspiciously. Maybe you want to powder our brains, and then we'll start a war. I was waiting for such an outcome, and opening his palm, he showed a small white snake. Everyone looked at Sannin strangely. This snake was watching Naruto-kun all the time. You can check its memory. Okay, agreed Yuri Yamanaka, the head of the clan. He took the snake and began to delve into its memory. You fools, he won't even notice that I changed some things, Orochimaru said to himself and laughed ominously. Yuri confirmed Orochimaru's words. He was angry. The man saw a lot of death in a minute. He wanted revenge, only revenge controlled him now. The man told everything to the Hokage. Now everyone believed in Orochimaru's words. The young shinobi were enveloped in darkness. Now their goal throughout their lives was revenge. If you think logically, then Kushina will definitely not be in the stone. And the question remains, where is she? Don't worry, I'm 90% sure that she's in the world of summoning. With that, Uzumaki, Sannin answered Minato's question. Namikaze gave the order to mobilize troops. In a few days they will go to Kamen and will present them. If they refuse to give Uzumaki Naruto's head, a new war will begin. Orochimaru-san, how did you survive? Hinata asked her interesting question. Cursed seal, Sannin answered briefly. Everyone again began to discuss the details of the problem, but Shikamaru could not understand why Orochimaru was helping them. Orochimaru, why are you helping us? Everyone looked at Sannin with interest. If so, then these are personal motives, but don't worry, I won't bother you, the man answered calmly, but he felt that they didn't trust him yet. Naruto and Kushina stood on the seashore. And they looked at the ruins. The coats of arms of the Uzumaki clan were visible on the rubble. Naruto and Kushina entered the village. When they walked along it, they saw a lot of old protectors and bones. For Naruto this was not so surprising. He had already been here and seen everything. But for Kushina this was new. Walking through the neighborhoods they saw a lot of bones. The whole village was covered in mold. Kushina remembered what her home village looked like before the attack. Naruto walked up to the statue and looked at it. He felt strange again next to her. He felt as if his strength was overwhelming him. Naruto made an incision on his hand like last time and ran it over the statue. It lit up with a bright light and something clicked. The girl became wary and hid behind Naruto. There was a hatch on the ground that opened with a creak. Don't be afraid, I've already been here. He felt that Kushina was tense and wanted to calm her down. Now follow me. Kushina grabbed Naruto's hand and they walked downstairs together. A small room with shelves for scrolls opened up to them. Kushina was surprised that the knowledge of her clan remained. She thought that there was nothing left of her clan. Naru, who are we going to look for? I don't think the scrolls contain the information we need. As I was told, there should live in this place one fox who knows everything about our clan, Naruto said with his eyes closed. Using sensors he scanned the entire territory of Uzushio. Kushina immediately understood her son's actions and decided to help him. Uzumaki was a very good sensor. They spent several hours exploring the entire territory of Uzushio, but they were unable to spot anyone. Naruto and Kushina searched every corner, but it was of no use. What do we do? The girl asked while leaning her elbows on the wall. She was very exhausted during this time. We will continue. Hizo-san couldn't lie to me, we're just doing something wrong, that's why it's not working out for us, and released more waves of chakra from his body. Maybe it's time to stop emitting waves from chakra. Shouted an unfamiliar barefoot voice from the darkness. The girl sitting on the ground immediately stood next to Naruto. And the young man himself covered Kushina with his hand. Representatives of the Uzumaki clan were surprised that they could not detect the stranger. I can't believe that after so many hours of work, we couldn't detect him. He seems to hide his chakra very well, Naruto thought. The situation was tense and loud footsteps could be heard around the room. A small red fox with 8 tails came out. His tails swung around. The fox did not take his eyes off the strangers. Naruto and Kushina were a little happy, they finally found him. Who you are? And what were you looking for here? The fox asked with a sleepy voice. He did not feel hostility. The redhead pretended to be the first to see Naruto. He already realized that they belonged to the main branch of the Uzumaki clan, and in a second he figured out that these two had boundless love for each other. Forgive us, Kushina politely asked for forgiveness. Strange as it may seem, we were looking for you, but we have a question that only you can answer. And which one? and lay down on his front paws. We want to know everything about that day. Who destroyed Uzushio? How can you call yourself Uzumaki if you don't know about obvious things? Everyone should know about that day. The fox growled. He was infuriated that representatives from the main branch did not know about the attack on Uzushio. We know, but it's not certain. I want to make sure, Naruto mumbled. Okay, everything is clear here, the fox sighed openly. Listen to me carefully. Naruto and Kushina sat down with the fox, preparing for the story. It was a normal evening, everyone was doing their own business, the shinobi were doing their tasks, the Uzukage was doing the Kage's business. Children played on the playground, young genin trained on the training ground with their sensei. Uzushio was surrounded by the most powerful barrier, even the Baijidama could not destroy him. Members of the Uzumaki clan and several representatives from Konoha could enter through the barrier. That night, someone removed the barrier. No one understood who could do it, but we didn't have time to think about it. After all, we were immediately attacked. The shinobi of Uzushiogakure destroyed 80% of the alliance. But we were overwhelmed by numbers. We sent a message to Konoha, but they didn't have time. Uzushio was already destroyed. During the battle, I killed several Root Umbu ninjas. At first I didn't believe it, but after checking, I then realized that Konoha had betrayed us. After the destruction, there were a lot of corpses of Konoha ninjas lying around here. It's obvious that Konoha betrayed us. They brazenly stole several scrolls. But I still don't know who removed the barrier. I removed all traces of my existence and hid all the secret knowledge of the Uzumaki clan. All this time I have been guarding this place and put up a barrier that allows only those who have the blood of the main branch to pass through. After finishing the story, he looked at his guests. Naruto was in frustration, Kushina was also surprised, but not like Naruto. The young man could not believe that his friend's story was true. All his feelings were mixed together. In his head he heard someone's voice that told him to destroy everyone. Not even a second had passed before Naruto's eyes changed, and a very strong chakra burst out from Naruto himself, which threw away those nearby. A demonic scream was heard from his lips. The fox immediately became serious and covered himself with his tails. The chakra that came from Naruto was too hot. Kushina wanted to help her son, but the redhead stopped her. You shouldn't approach him, otherwise you'll make things worse for yourself, the fox shouted and covered the girl with his tails. Let me go. He is my son and I must help him. And tried to unhook the tails. Meanwhile, Naruto stood on both legs and looked at the ceiling while whispering something incomprehensible. A storm of chakra surrounded him. From such pressure the walls and ceiling began to crack. The smile of the demon himself played on Naruto's face, but he did nothing. He didn't look like himself, but looked like a demon. Demonic warrior, I call upon you. Naruto shouted. A red warrior appeared, who was as tall as the ceiling, but he quickly began to grow and change his shape. The building they were in was completely destroyed. The fox saved himself and Kushina with the help of his tails. A huge warrior stood over the ruins of the building. He was approximately 300 m tall. He had 3 faces, each of them had its own feature. The first had anger on his face, the second had a mask of calm, and the third had a face of joy. The warrior is equipped with red armor with gold accents, bracelets and a large shield on his back, in which 4 swords are stuck. Naruto himself was levitating inside his head, shouting, I will kill everyone. I will avenge the clan. Having removed their tails, Kushina and the fox were able to see Naruto in new glory. This can't be, the redhead thought. He had read about this warrior, but he did not expect to be able to see him in person. Kushina was shocked and fell to her knees before this power. And tears flowed from her eyes. The thought that she could lose her son made her even more painful. Naruto fell to his knees, grabbed his head and started screaming. Seeing this, Kushina's heart was breaking. She could not help her son. Go away. Out of my head. Naruto spoke in his real voice. There was only darkness. Naruto didn't understand where he was, no matter where he went it was dark. I have to find a way out, Kushina is waiting for me there. Naruto thought. And he was about to run again to look for a way out, until a man's voice stopped him. Who are you? And where are you? Naruto looked around. He was overcome with fear for his life. You don't have to be afraid, I won't do anything to you. I ask you to listen to me completely. Come on, speak. Naruto said but stood on guard. The strangest thing was that he could not activate his eyes and could not turn on his sensors. And so now you are in my subconscious. I will say one thing, you awakened my power, because of this, your second personality awakened, and now controls your body.